Well, hi there. I am missionary Dr. Jeffrey Lang and president of Global Baptist Bible College, and I'm excited to be able to bring you these video lessons on how to find hope in Jesus Christ. The Bible is the most important book in the whole world because it teaches us how to come into a right relationship with God. The Bible is God's message of hope and love to all people. The 15 key truths in this video series will help you understand who God is, why He created the world, why there is sin and suffering in the world, and why Jesus Christ came to this earth. But most importantly, you will learn how to find hope in Jesus Christ by coming into a right relationship with God. Feel free to contact us at any time if you have any questions. All right, well, let's get started. Key truth number 1. God does not want your life to be empty, but wants to bring purpose and meaning to your life. We read in Genesis chapter 1 and in verse number 1, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. So, according to Genesis chapter 1 and verse 1, who is it that created the heaven and the earth? Well, it was God, right? The Bible does not use science or philosophy to prove the existence of God. It simply states that God exists. Not only does the Bible tell us that God created the world, but more importantly, it tells us who God is. You see, many people have a wrong view of God. Some think, there is no God. Some believe, there's many gods. Some believe God is nature. Some people think they're their own God. Some people think God is a force. But how do we know these are wrong views of God? The answer is because the Bible reveals to us who God is, what He is like, and where He came from. The Bible is the only source of information where we can learn about God. And God gave us the Bible to reveal truths to us that we simply cannot know any other way. Now, according to this verse, what is it that God did? Well, God created. What does the word create mean? Well, it means to make something. Now, what does this verse say that God created the heaven and the earth out of? Now, this might be a trick question for some of you. According to this verse, what did God use to create the heaven and the earth? The answer is nothing. Everything God created was out of nothing. You see, we can take wood and cement and build a house, but we can't build a house out of nothing. We could take some meat and vegetables and make a meal, but we cannot make a meal out of nothing. You see, man is able to make things, but he can't make something out of nothing. Only God can make something out of nothing. Now, back in verse number 1, when did God create the heaven and the earth? Now, this may be a hard question for some people to answer. The answer is in this verse. When did God create the heavens and the earth? What word here in verse number 1 implies time? Well, it's the word beginning, right? In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth in the beginning. What does the word beginning mean? Well, it means to start. So what did God start? Well, He started time. You see, there was no time before God created the heaven and the earth. And I know as man, we're stuck in this three-dimensional world, and our lives revolve around time. And it may be difficult for us to understand and to grasp this truth that there was no time before God created the heaven and the earth. So not only did God create the heaven and the earth, but he also started time. It's important to understand that God did not begin to exist at the start of time. He was already in existence at the beginning of time. So some people wonder, well, where did God come from? Well, the Bible answers that question. We read in Psalm chapter 90 and verse number 2, "Before the mountains were brought forth, or ever thou hadst formed the earth and the world, even from everlasting to everlasting, thou art God." Notice that, from everlasting to everlasting, thou art God. What does everlasting mean? Well, it means to have no time limits. I mean, if we go back in time, God is there. And if we go forward in time, he's everlasting in the future. He is there. God, he has no beginning and he has no end. We learn from this verse that God has always existed. There never was a time when God was created or came into existence. Well, in verse number 2, Genesis chapter 1, verse number 2, we read this. "And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters." Now, this verse describes what the earth looked like before God created life on it. The first word that describes the earth, what is it? Well, it says here that it was without form. What does without form mean? Well, it means to be desolate, undeveloped. The second word that describes the earth, what is it? It was without form and void, right? Void. What does void mean? Well, it means to be empty. So the surface of the earth, at the beginning, it was undeveloped, it was desolate, it was lifeless. Now, while we don't know for sure, but it probably would have resembled something like the surface of the moon. Now, verse 2 tells us two things that covered the earth. What was the first? Well, it was darkness. We read of this darkness was upon the face of the deep. There was no light. The earth was covered in total darkness. And the second, what else was the earth covered in? Well, it says here, darkness was upon the face of the waters. It was covered in water. So at that time, a layer of deep water covered the surface of the earth. So the surface of the earth was undeveloped, it was desolate, it was lifeless. It was surrounded by water in complete darkness. This is how the earth started. But friends, this is not how God left it. You see, God is going to take the earth, something that's undeveloped, it's dark, it's empty, and he will form the earth so that he can bring light and life upon it. So what does this teach us about God? Well, first of all, we learn that God finishes what he starts. God, he did not leave the earth undeveloped, dark, empty. What he starts, he brings to completion. He will bring light and life to this dark and lifeless earth. And likewise, my friend, God does not stop just giving you physical life. He does not want your life to be without meaning. He doesn't want your life to be empty. He doesn't want it to be dark. He wants to bring light and meaning to your life. Secondly, we learn that we see that God is a planner. He planned his creation in stages. And likewise, God has a plan to bring you into a right relationship with him that will bring peace, purpose, and meaning to your life. Third, we learn that God is all powerful. God has the power to take what was undeveloped and form it into what he wants it to be. And likewise, friends, if you feel lifeless, empty, God has the power to bring life to you. Fourthly and finally, we learn that God focuses on the earth. Although that God made both the heavens and the earth, we learn here that God focuses on the earth. And likewise, friends, God is also focused on your life. He does not want your life to be without meaning. You see, God is planning to bring light and life to a dark, empty, and lifeless earth. But even more importantly, he wants to bring light and life to you. Do you sometimes feel lifeless, or maybe that your life has no meaning? Do you sometimes feel like you're missing your purpose in life? Well, just as God brought the earth from a dark and lifeless place to a place of light and life, so God can bring to you spiritual life and remake you into the person that has light, life, purpose, and meaning in life.